you're going to look at guys as infinitely replaceable, as a infinite never-ending supply that is dehumanizing. So they don't respect you or your time because they don't have to, because there's another bus every 15 minutes.
You're listening to the premier podcast for men who want to not only be better with women, but want to be better men in general. This is the Come On Man podcast. And here's your host, Paul Bauer.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another week of Come On Man. If you haven't done so already, please like, fave, subscribe, hit those notifications. You know what to do. I apologize for the audio in the intro and the outro. My kids are here this week, and trying to record in my office while they're here is a little challenging sometimes. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go record the intro and the outro out in my truck where it's quiet. Thank God, though, school starts. School starts in like a week or so. This is the last week of summer vacation with the kids, so this is nice. This is nice. If you guys haven't done so already, please drop a comment. Drop a comment below. Any comment will do. If you guys are watching during the premiere, sound off in the live chat. I'm not available to comment and interact with you guys this time because I'm on my motorcycle on my way back from Sturgis as this is playing on Monday morning. So, but still, you know, sound off in there, because any kind of comments, any kind of interaction, if you guys are chatting with each other, that boosts us in the algorithm. That gets us in front of more men. Let's see, what else can we do? Let's go ahead and plug the beer club, right? The beer club, beer.comeonmanpod.com. Be sure to get on that. It's only $10. It's a good group of dudes. We're getting lots of guys, lots of interest in it. The last two meetups have been pretty good. We've had a really good turnout for the last two meetups. The next meetup is August 17th. So it's only $10 a month, guys. It's a great outlet. It's a great outlet for our mental health. You know, if you have problems, don't bring it to your girl. She doesn't care. Bring it to the boys, okay? Guys do better problem solving than they do working through their feelings, right? If you bring it to the group, we're going to come up with solutions, right? We're going to come up with solutions. So, you know, forget therapists, forget counselors. Definitely don't bring stuff to your girl. Bring it to the boys. I will play a commercial for that. But before I do, let me tell you about my guest today. My brother, my 3% brother, Ryan Kaufman, joins me today to talk about all those flaky women out there. There's so many flaky girls. And my man's a pimp too, right? When you see him, if you guys are watching on YouTube, the dude is the stereotypical Chad, right? Great shape. He's got like neck tattoos. He's a bad boy. You know what I mean? Like, he has no problem getting chicks. And I've actually met him in person. I went out to a men's retreat. Was it last year or 2 years ago? It was 2 years ago now. I went out to Georgia. He and I went to our mutual friend Benny's retreat. And man, I've seen him in action at the bar at airports. Like, the dude knows what's up, right? His game is on point. But he found himself in a position where all of a sudden, like 90% of these chicks were just like flaking on him, right? And he was like trying to figure it out. And I was like, well, you know, there's these things that you can do to minimize it, but you can't minimize it completely. Like, women are just naturally flaky. You know what I mean? You can't, you can minimize it, but you're never going to get rid of it, right? Even the best dudes in the business deal with flaky women. So it's just a part of the game. You got to get used to it. So we talk about that today, and I will bring you that conversation right after these words. Here's a harsh truth that everybody gets upset about online when I say it. They get upset because of their ego investment into the fairy tale idea of love and partnership. They get upset because of their ego investment into the idea that their woman is their best friend, their confidant, and they think that love will conquer all, and that their woman will be there through thick and thin. The truth is that as a man, your woman is hardwired biologically and psychologically to want you to be her rock. It doesn't work the other way around. Women do not care about your struggles as a man. They may think they care. They may even want to care. But her evolutionary DNA will not let her care. If you bring her your problems, she will lose attraction for you over time, and she will leave. Now, whenever I talk about this, people lose their minds and start talking about men unaliving themselves. The faster that men learn that women don't care about our struggles, the faster we'll save the lives of men. Men off themselves because of their own ego investments in the Disney fairy tale lie. And when that fairy tale goes up in flames, they get zeroed out and they end things. Men do need a proper outlet for dealing with their problems, but going to their woman isn't the answer. Men need a tribe. They need a brotherhood. That's why I created my beer club. It's a monthly virtual hangout for men only. It's a place where men can be men. It's a place where men can talk about guy stuff without having to worry about offending women. It's a place where they can go without having to worry about being called toxically masculine. It's a place where they can go to solve their problems. Because men solve problems, women cause problems, you dig? Visit beer.comeonmanpod.com. That's beer.comeonmanpod.com to sign up. All right, returning to the podcast, my 3% brother and fellow 3% Brotherhood admin, Ryan Kaufman. He's a tattoo artist and usually has a lot of really great insights into dating and attraction. Thought it'd be fun to have him back on the podcast to catch up a bit. What's new with you, brother? It's been a while.
Oh man, just slanging and banging, dude.
Just slanging and bang, dude. I know exactly what you're talking about because that's literally all I do.
Yeah. Well, since the last time I was on, I bought a new house. I kept my other one, so I got tenants in there. I've taken on an apprentice at work, and he's coming along nicely. Got some chickens. I got my garden, so I'm kind of homesteading a little.
Oh, you're a farmer now. Look at you.
Something like that.
What? So you have an apprentice tattoo artist. How does that work? Like, how does someone get into that? They just?
Tough. It's definitely a saturated industry right now.
Yeah.
Persistence. This kid was just hanging out at the shop a lot. He was actually working with another one of our artists for a bit as like an assistant. I think he was looking for an apprenticeship. There's actually we took on a few apprentices at the shop kind of in the same time frame, but the artist that he was working with ended up leaving to start his own studio, and my guy decided to stay, and I took him under my wing and said, I'll show you the ropes and try to get you there and tell you what I know and what I've learned in 14 years. So yeah, just giving him assignments and hanging out. It's kind of like mentoring him.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways.
But it's not like it's not something like you typically go to school for, right? Like there's no tattoo schools, or are there?
There are, but they're like very frowned upon. Like if you were to go to a tattoo school, it would be like kind of like blacklisted from like serious artists.
That wouldn't help you in your career. They'd be like, "Oh, you had to go to school, fag."
Yeah.
That's gonna get me kicked off of YouTube. I'm gonna have to learn.
The tattoo industry is one of the last industries that kind of carries that older tradition of like having an apprentice and a mentor or master or whatever, where you're basically shadowing that individual, and they're trying to kind of dump off all of their life's knowledge on you so that you can take it and run with it.
Okay, gotcha. So we weren't really going to talk about tattoos today though, because we did that last time. So when we were setting this up, you mentioned having become really frustrated lately with some of these really hot perfect 10s who are just flaky as hell, right? So what have you been experiencing lately with that?
So having been more or less single for 3 years or so, and having worked with Benny in the past, and having some real success in experiencing some abundance, I got into a relationship for a bit and then got back out, and I noticed, like, as time has gone on, that women seem to be getting flakier, at least in my experience, where I'm kind of taking the same approach, and I feel like I've know what I'm doing and what I'm looking for, and kind of how to navigate it, like getting the numbers or making the approach and getting the banter going. Everything's good, but having some frustrations with people, like last minute cancellations, or just kind of just falling off, not being able to get some of these, a certain caliber out on a date. And I have some thoughts and what I think that could be where that issue is coming from.
Yeah.
Like, culturally,
Yeah. We'll get into that. You were saying that, the other day you sent me, I think it was like 3 screenshots of like 3 different back-to-back like chicks saying, "Oh, I can't do it. Something came up.
Yeah.
Whatever bullshit. My grandma died for the 20th time."
Yeah.
And you were saying, you're like, "I swear to God, it's like an 80% flake rate."
Yeah.
Do you think that's pretty accurate, 80%? Or are you just being like hyperbolic there?
I mean, there was certainly in a few month period that I would say I was getting the majority were flaking out. Like, I'd have the date planned, we'd talk on the phone, set a date, set a time, everything's good, not over communicating, but keeping it fun and taking the lead and doing all that stuff. But yeah, it's frustrating when, let's say I've got, 5 numbers, I've only got 3 days available, right? So I take the 3 that I feel like are highest interest and try to set and I set those dates. Now my calendar's full, right? So I'm not pursuing anything else. I'm working, and the day comes, and then boom, it falls off. And it's like, okay, I could have had other plans. I could have done something else here. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's frustrating. So you were saying too before we started recording that you're at the point though, like where you do have like more numbers than you know what to do with. Which
yeah,
is
I don't have enough days in the week, to get it all in if I wanted to. So it is kind of nice to be able to play favorites.
Yeah.
But I really feel like it doesn't count. None of it's real until you're sitting across the table. It's all.
Yeah. That's the way that's the mental framework I ended up taking, was because a lot of guys get that attachment to outcome. They get super excited, and you actually end up getting, when you get pretty good at closing, whether it's like meeting in person, closing on an app, closing, doing the social media method, whatever social circle, whatever you want to do to meet chicks. And you get really good at closing for numbers, like that kind of boosts your ego quite a bit. But then the trick is getting them in fucking front of you.
Yeah, and that's the most frustrating thing.
Yeah.
That if I get you across the table from me, we're both going to have a great time. I know that. I have no doubt. Because we're doing something fun, and it's something that I'm going to enjoy doing, and that's going to spill over, and that's going to be a good time for you as well. Whether it goes the distance or not, whether we don't click, but we have a nice time. But it's getting you across the table, and I think it's a lot of. I think other guys are ruining it for the ones that know what's going on, that know how to date in court properly.
Oh, you think it's the 97%ers out there that's
I think that's
muddling up the waters a little bit.
I think it's a big part of it, because if 97% of the guys that women are dealing with are not consistent and do not have a plan, or are not stepping up in a way that is building attraction, and that then women are going to treat everybody kind of like that. Like, there's more testing, there's more and less excitement, because it's been consistently bad. You know what I mean? So it's probably going to be just like that again.
Yeah.
I think, and so you have a bunch of guys that don't know what they're doing, or aren't really stepping up, taking the lead, and fumbling their way through, and it leaves a bad taste in your mouth. You know what I mean? And women value their time just as much as men value their time, I would say, especially ones that are in high demand. So I think they're more hesitant to actually show up. Either that, or they're just so nervous that they chicken out. I don't know.
That's probably a small percentage of them for sure, where they just like.
I've had a couple that I suspected that was the case, that they like had said, "Oh, I've never actually given my number to somebody on the app. I've actually never gone out and met somebody from online, and like they get all emotionally worked up leading up to it, and then the day comes like, oh, actually, stranger danger.
Yeah. Or they just maybe they just got done with a divorce. They haven't dated themselves in like 11 years, and they just can't get out of their own heads about it. Yeah, there's definitely chicks out there like that for sure. So so let me ask you this, and I don't know if we talked about this the last time you were on, but when you set up a date, do you follow the Corey method where you don't confirm, or do you confirm?
I like to do confirmation like the night before or the morning of. I liked Benny's method, which was like, just, I can't wait to see what you pick out to wear for me tonight.
Yeah. That was a good one.
I feel like it kind of sets a frame. It's flirtatious, and it's not, it doesn't come off as like, hey, are you coming? It's just assuming that the date is on, and it's going to prompt a response.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? If they were thinking of just ghosting or flaking out, they'll on the heels. Oh, actually, as a matter of, I was just going to text you. Something came up. My grandma died for the 20th time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was, and going back to what you were saying about these chicks flaking out on you and not getting too excited about having a number and stuff like that, man. Like, because I look back on it, I got canceled on a lot.
Yeah.
I got canceled on a shitload, and it was just like that's one of the reasons why I did get to the point where like I didn't get excited for closing, because I got really good at fucking closing.
Yeah.
I was closing. I was setting up dates for the entire week, and I just got to the point where it was like, okay, cool, close another one. And I remember, initially in the beginning of the group, like I would actually post like, hey, this is how you do it, boys. I'm closing. But like, probably like, you were saying, it's probably a good, at least 25% of them would cancel last minute. And so I got to the point like, and that would fucking just really take the wind out of my sails. And I finally just got to the point where it's like, okay, cool. I closed, I got a number, I got a yes, let's go on a date. I got a date set. Not going to get excited for it. And that's why I would do the confirm, cause I gave them an out. I knew like they were going to flake anyway, if they're going to, and, and so they would cancel. I'd be like, okay, cool. And I had other plans lined up, to do.
Yeah. It's good to be, I mean, that's where the like attachment to outcome comes in. I find like, when I'm starting off, like if you get a match, like you're like, yes, like that's like the big thing. But then you realize, oh, maybe they're not going to respond to your message even. So then you start getting, responses to your message. You're like, oh, I got a live one, you know? And then, if you can't get the number, but then you get that number. And again, it's like, all right, it's real now, but it's not, you know what I mean? Because anything can happen up until you're out on the date. And it's nice to kind of have a backup plan, or at least know like, okay, if this doesn't go through tonight, then I'm gonna do this instead. You know what I mean? I either have this project to work on, or I'm gonna go hit my buddy up, or I'm gonna go out and take myself out to dinner and go do some karaoke or something. Like just go keep it rolling.
That was one of my things too. Like I would always have, and I was just talking to a Patreon client of mine earlier tonight about this, but that was my big thing. Like I would have set things I did every night. Like, okay, Tuesday night is bowling night. I'll go bowling. If I don't have a date lined up, it's bowling night. If it's Wednesday night, I'll go meet the people at Run Club. If it's Thursday, I'll go down to karaoke night, like whatever. I always had like my go-to thing that I had planned if I didn't have a date anyway. And then if a chick flaked out, it was like, oh, well, I guess it's bowling night,
I've found it's helpful to, I do oftentimes my majority of my work is done from home, like all the prep work for my projects. Yeah. So I've always got artwork I can do. And if I get it done ahead of time, then that's like, I'm ahead of schedule. So I can, takes a load off of me. But like I'm a slut for karaoke. So when I moved up here, like I learned on, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, I know where karaoke is. And so I'd go out, and that kind of loosens up the social gears a bit, and you're going to see some similar faces, and gets me out of my shell. And so that was kind of something that I'd either have some artwork I could do, karaoke night that I could go to, or, some show I'm catching up with, or what I started doing, which has been really beneficial. Like if I didn't have plans in the evening, or if something flaked, go to the gym after. And instead of coming home and twiddling my thumbs and sitting in the dark or whatever and watching TV and kind of doing nothing, go do something positive for myself and go to the gym and at least get a pump on. And I was like, you know what, this is probably better. It's better for me than it would be to go, drink 3 Coronas and make small talk with somebody that come to find out I'm not really feeling.
Right. Yeah. I've talked about it on the podcast too. Like one of the reasons why I even started the podcast was it gave me an outlet of something to do. And if you go back and listen to the very first episode, it was literally called "She Canceled on Me."
Yeah.
And it was I was thinking about doing the podcast anyway. I remember I had reached out to Chris Kokoski and, said, "Hey man, I was thinking about doing a podcast with the guys in the group, and, is that okay?" And so I had already planned on starting the podcast. I just didn't know when, and I didn't, know when I was going to record it. And then, chick fucking canceled on me. And I was like, well, I guess I'm fucking doing a podcast,
So, that might've been the best flake ever.
Yeah, it was, launched this whole thing. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah. I think that's probably the hardest thing for guys is
dedicate an episode to her. What's
this, that?
Or you should dedicate a podcast to her,
to that girl. I don't even remember what she looked like back then. I think she was a cute young thing though. Like, like in her 20s. A lot of I found that, like you talked about, like the real hot ones are usually the flakiest. I found like it's the young ones were always the worst.
I was hitting the glass ceiling with what I would say would be like physically 9s and 10s and under 30-year-olds being probably the flakiest, or just it's like pulling teeth trying to get a conversation going or keep the engagement, or it just, I felt like every step of the way they were just non-committal, flaky, and kind of not taking anything seriously. It was like I'm obviously like trying to bring some value here, and whether this is we're just going to hang out and have fun, or if you're looking for something more substantial, like I think a lot of the younger girls, and I think it's a lot of the culture, social media, and Western modern feminism, and kind of the narrative that's getting pushed out right now and filling people's heads with a bunch of romanticized garbage that's
just not true.
Of course, it's not true, and it's not making anybody's life better.
Yeah.
Across the board.
How old are you? I don't know if I've ever asked you that.
37.
You're 37. Okay. Yeah. One thing I found just for me too, like I would follow guys don't have to do this, right? I think this is kind of an arbitrary rule, but I would always follow like the half my age plus 7 rule. And I found that just worked so much better for me because, man, the chicks that were younger than that, they were really fucking flaky. They had like no concept of anybody's time. And I also found too, like we were talking about, like pulling conversations out of chicks. I got to the point where
I don't even fuck with it now.
I don't. Yeah, I wouldn't either.
I'll like troll them before getting off the chat. Like, oh wow, 10 out of 10 texter over here. Like way to go, nice job. Like,
does that make you feel better? I guess I don't like doing that kind of stuff because I'm like I don't think it's going to change their behavior. But I was
watching some video. I don't remember who it was, but it was talking about flaking, and the issue being women are flaky because they can get away with it, because they know that there's some other guy right around the corner that's going to give them the attention. And if women actually felt like flaking would affect their love life, they wouldn't do it. But there's no consequence. So I'm not saying punishment. And obviously the only thing you can do is just remove your attention, right? But if you got guys that are like, oh hey, I can't make it tonight without any backup plan. Oh, it's okay, everything's good, no worries, just let me know when you're ready. Da da da. It's just feeding that ego of oh yeah, cool, yeah, he's still there. You know what I mean?
That's why I didn't like Corey's method of, like, if a chick canceled, just be like, okay, no worries, perhaps some other time, and then trying again a week later. I was like,
I think there is something to be said for at least the first time, like giving somebody the benefit of the doubt, giving them the opportunity. Okay, I'm going to trust you the first time. You know what I mean? That your word is bond, or that you're saying what you mean, that something genuinely came up, or you're just not feeling it. Maybe it's that time of the month and you don't want to say it, but like whatever the case may be, like to trust the actions over the words, and not become emotionally reactive, but to not make yourself immediately available either. Kind of like wait and see, are they going to propose an alternative date? One of my response would be like, okay, cool, like I'm sure you'll make it up to me. And then kind of, that's cool, I'm sure you'll make it up to me, you know what I mean? And see how they
react to that.
If it's like, oh yeah, sure, yeah, of course, or it's more enthusiastic. Nothing.
That might be an okay way of dealing with it. I know other guys, they'll just put it back in their court, be like, okay, well, hit me up whenever you're ready.
Yeah, that's generally kind of,
I would say that's an acceptable way of doing it. The way I did it, I would always follow Christopher Canwell's method, though, where it's like, if she cancels and then gives me an alternative time, it's like, okay, yeah, we could probably do that. If she cancels and then just doesn't say anything, like the 3 that you sent me, they were just straight up fucking canceling, I just wouldn't reply to that.
I stopped replying to it. If anything, I'll give it like the thumbs up, like, got it, cool. But it doesn't warrant a response because they're not moving the chips forward, so there's no point.
That's the way I always looked at it too. I just got to the point where I'm just like, this doesn't even warrant a response, and I just move on to the next chick. I think a big thing that guys do wrong, and I say wrong because doing it this way, I think it just sets them up for failure more. Is and you're not doing this, because pretty much none of us in the group do it this way, but guys will get the sniper mentality when it comes to, like, let's say dating apps, where they're trying to get matches. They finally get a match, and then
everything else fall off.
They just even if they have multiple matches, they'll strike up conversations, and then they'll get one chick that's sort of interested. So then they just like, okay, none of these other matches.
No, you gotta keep
that ball.
Well, the other thing is too, I think it keeps your conversation and your banter better. Like, I can remember, there's times where, like, I might have like 3 or 4 conversations going on simultaneously, whether I've closed a number or it's on an app or whatever, and they're coming in like at the same time, like I'm talking like simultaneously. So now I've got 4 conversations that I'm not attached to, because I'm in banter mode, and you can have fun with it. You know what I mean? You can, and you're taking your time and responding because you're on, talking to somebody else or whatever. And it just keeps things, you're not like, giving it too much attention too soon. And I think it comes across in the sub communication. That, like, you're not overly focused on this one conversation and pouring your whole energy into it. You're just kind of like a busy guy having some fun with it, playing ping pong.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, I mean, honestly, that's, that actually was one of the things that makes it better, is because you're like, a lot of guys that they'll send a message off to Susan, and then Susan doesn't reply back for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour.
And they're
And
sitting there.
they're just like
Yeah.
waiting for her to reply. They're like, their anxiety's building up. When is she going to reply? Oh my God. And I know this because I used to do that. I used to
Yeah.
be that guy before I got into all this stuff. I'd be like, I'd send a message off and then my heart would start pounding. When is she going to reply?
Where is she?
Oh, yeah. And then, but if you're texting like 4 chicks at once, you don't care if Susan replies, because you're in the middle of having a conversation with Lisa, and Lisa is talking your fucking ear off, and you're like, yeah. Oh, Susan did get back to me. Okay, whatever. I'll get back to her in an hour.
And you're like casual with it.
Yeah.
You don't have any? Oh, you must have been busy. Like none of that. Like, okay, cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a much better way of dealing with that stuff. That a lot of guys, I think that's like a big thing that they just don't quite understand. They think that, oh, I'm cheating on her. You haven't even gotten on a fucking date with her yet. You're not cheating on anybody.
Yeah, it's that there's definitely like a lot of that cultural like that stuff gets hammered in your head that you kind of have to break free of, that mentality of like, because guys have like, word is bond. Loyalty is a huge quality of a value of ours.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, right? Like loyal to your tribe, loyal to your team, loyal to your boys. That just kind of, that word is bond, right? We're natural. We want to provide and take care of and keep it all together, right? Like, so, it's easy to carry that mindset into some girl that like you're attracted to and that you would like to see things like progress with.
Yeah.
And but the reality is like, until you've had the conversation of exclusivity, like she is also single. She is not necessarily as focused on her own loyalty, because women are inherently single.
Mm-hmm.
They're natural plate spinners. There's no, what I heard it recently, like women are never completely single. There's always some guy that they're talking to, or that is talking to them. They might only sleep with one at a time or be invested in one at a time, but there's always somebody.
They always got somebody knocking at the door, for sure.
Yeah, or that they're knocking on their door. But yeah, there's always somebody that's, I think, that the apple of their eye.
Mm-hmm. Going back to setting up these dates with these flaky chicks, I think you said it already, but you typically set up dates over phone call, or do you do a text, or how do you normally set it up?
I used to do it primarily over the phone. I've steered away from that, not entirely. I think if you're over 30, I'll prompt or tease the phone call in conversation. I actually recently, it was a gal I was talking to. I asked her when I closed the number and we moved it over to text. I just was like, so like, do you prefer text, or or do you like phone calls? And this is all just kind of in the small talk chat, but like kind of, so like, are you more of a texter, or do you, like, because I know a lot of people, are weird about phone calls these days, because that's been my experience.
Yeah.
And she actually appreciated it. She was like, hey, I can FaceTime you later tonight. I was like, okay, cool. But I've moved away from being so rigid on the phone call, where like, okay, like you're supposed to like wait the 3 days or whatever the case is, call them on the phone, but don't leave a message. If they don't pick up, don't do anything. Like, I think that has changed because of spam calls.
Mm-hmm.
The amount of and women won't save your number in their phone until they've met you.
Yeah.
Or so if you close somebody's number, even if you like send them a picture with your name and you have a little conversation, and then you let it go for a couple days, and then you call them out of the blue, it just looks like a spam call. And and at the same time, there's also people, especially like on the younger side, and I've had this conversation with a number of people, like dates included, where we've talked about this, and across the board, it's like, it's weird. It's abrasive. Like, I'm busy, I'm walking around, and like all of a sudden you're calling me and I got to be like on, like it's daunting. It's too much pressure, and they don't like it. It doesn't feel good. So they don't respond well to it. And then they might text you back immediately afterwards or something. So what I've found is better is send like a video message after 3 days, like when I'm in my car or something, and I just drop a line, and at least that way I can communicate some body language and vocal tonality, and I keep it light, and I'm not teasing the date in the video message, but I'm just reopening the conversation that way. And then as they respond, I might set a date over text, or again, like tease the phone call or something. Like if it's far enough out, like oftentimes I only have a couple nights a week that I'm even free. And I think that's another problem, is setting it too far out, but saying, okay, well, let's touch base, halfway through, and like hop on a phone call. How do you feel about having a FaceTime? Basically like breaking it up. Like, when are you free to get together for a FaceTime?
Yeah.
And I'll oftentimes pose it as like, so that I can see if I like you enough for a date thing. Like, well, I just want to see if we vibe before we waste each other's time.
Yeah.
And
going to the phone call, setting up dates over phone, text, or whatever. Man, I remember early on in the group, Benny was really big on, it's gotta be a phone call. And like the book was like, it's gotta be a phone call. And then I would get flakes, and Benny was like, it's because you're not doing phone calls, and because I would always set up a date on the app over text, set the date up, and then I would ask for their number and then move everything over to text over, using SMS. And then that way I could send voice messages and video messages and stuff like that.
I agree. Like the reasoning behind it is sound.
Yeah, it makes sense.
You stand head and shoulders above every other line of text on the screen, because body language is 70% of communication as it is.
Yeah.
And there's the notion of like, when a girl matches with you on an app or on social media, you are not a real person. You're a bot. You're a face and a name. You're not real. There's like then once you get a number and you've moved it over to text, it gets put in a different box. Now you're in contacts, or you're in their inbox. It's more personal, but still with text, they can't put the sound of your laugh, or your eye contact, or how you how your humor comes across. You can't get any of that across. And I think the more appropriate way to look at it is, you can't tell from her.
True.
And I don't want to waste my time going out with somebody that's a dead fish or something that's like just got no character. So if you frame it in your head of like prompting to try to get a better read on them before you set a date, and qualify them as to whether you're going to have fun with them or not, it changes it. And so, in the last few weeks, things have kind of turned around there, and I found a bit of a different momentum with it, where it's an art, not a science, and kind of breaking form from being too rigid, having rigid rules, or this is how it's supposed to be, to kind of playing around with what's working and what isn't, and fine tuning it. And I've been having better results and outcomes, and I'm not getting as hung up on the flakes, as I'm not setting dates with girls that you live and learn. You can kind of start seeing what, from the vibe. You kind of see the writing on the wall, like, okay, this person's probably not there yet.
Yeah. What I was going to say about the phone call thing, though, is like, I was getting a lot of flakes, right, for a while. And so I was like, okay, let me try the phone call thing. And I found like I would get just as many flakes with the phone call, setting up dates over the phone. And so I was like, I got to the point where I'm just like, it doesn't fucking matter. And what I do like, though, is, I did one of the things I learned for Benny is the voice and video messages. And so I was like, I hate talking on the phone. So that's sort of the next best thing is sending voice and video messages. And then and voice and video messages too, you can perfect them before sending them,
Yeah.
which I really like doing.
It's a nice middle ground where you can check your work. You can spell check, you can.
Yeah. So that's I like that a little bit better. But like what I found though is like there's no like, okay, no, this is it. This is the
There's
way
no
that
magic bullet.
there's no magic bullet with that. Yeah, at all. Like the chicks are just flaky. Now, going back to what you were saying too about how many days you set a date in advance, I do think that's very important because I found 2 to 3 days, no more than 2 to 3 days is best, 4 max. But anything past 4 days out, you just say, you know what, I'll ping you in a couple of days.
It's hard to keep the momentum going and to keep that emotional spike there. You know, got to strike when the iron's hot, right? And like you set the date when things are flowing. We're laughing, we're having a good time. The natural progression of things is going that way. But yeah, if you set it out, a week out, that can die down, especially if you're not going to be in constant contact.
Right, which we're not supposed to be. Like we're supposed to, keep texting, phone calls, video messages, whatever to logistics. And so you said a week out. Like some chicks are like, oh, I can't. I've had clients where chicks are like, oh, I can't meet up for 2 weeks, and so the guys will set a date 2 weeks in advance. I'm like, she's gonna flake on you, man. You better to just set a calendar reminder and say, you know what, I'll ping you in 2 weeks, and then fucking let it go.
That's been the challenge for me because I am busy and I've got my daughter half the time.
Yeah.
And I oftentimes have a lot of artwork to do. And so I've got to make sure I've got at least a night or two available that I can get my work done. So a lot of times I might have other dates set up. And that I think was kind of part of it would be like, it was this snowball effect. So like, let's say hypothetically this week is booked. I've got no time, but I've just matched. We've just exchanged numbers. We've just gotten off the phone, and I'm not free because I've got other dates and I've got work, and you've got work, or you might have other dates. So set it for 1 week out. Okay, next Tuesday, cool. Because I'm busy, and so then next Tuesday comes. I think I've got that whole week now booked. I've got plans. I've got dates that whole week or work or whatever else lined up. And then come to it, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday fall through, and you're like, "Fuck," I could have put something else there, and it just snowballs. So you think you're busy, and your week's booked up, but then you get to the week, and you're doing fuck all.
Yeah. I know exactly how you feel, man, because I have my kids 50-50, and I would not date on the weeks that I have my kids. So it was a matter of like the weeks that I had my kids, it was like I was on the apps, like trying to book the dates for the following week. And then the following week when I did have my kids, like those were the date nights. And man, when I found that, okay, it's got to be about 2 to 3 days out. Just like, man, I've got to be good at closing chicks and setting dates pretty much close to the time when my kids are going back to their moms, and I can't be doing it all week long. That became a fucking challenge, but it's doable. But it's like you gotta be really good at sales.
It's an art, and you've got to work. Everybody's schedule is different.
Yeah.
So I mean, I've let things go that like there was a good connection at least in the early stages, but just because our schedules don't line up. It's just not, it's too much work. And even if I were to, we kind of, finagle some things to get out, this week, that's still an issue that's going to present itself, long term. So, is the juice worth the squeeze,
Yeah.
And at my age, a lot of women have kids, you know what I mean? And it's tricky because, I got my daughter, so it's nice to have somebody who understands what that's like. But then, the younger gals that don't have kids are either looking maybe to have more, which is not something that I'm interested in, or they're just, they're flakier. They're not there. They're still kind of in their woo girl kind of, thing. And that's not necessarily what I can't hang with that anymore. I'm getting too old to be out in the dancing and taking Jaeger bombs with a bunch of 20-year-olds. Like,
Yeah, that's exactly one of the reasons why I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna stick to the fucking half my age plus 7. It just works.
What is that? What am I? I'm 37. So what's half of 37 is?
Oh, don't make me do math. I'm gonna have to pull out a calculator here. So 37 divided by 2 is 18 and a half
Plus
plus 7.
25.
25 and a half.
That is my favorite age. I like a good 25 to 27-year-old.
Yeah.
But again, this generation, they're either I see them as like 7s or 8s, where like I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm clearly the catch here, and I can get you out, but I'm swinging down. I feel, you know what I mean, like too easy, and I don't really feel like.
Well, guys should be swinging down a little bit because of the hypergamy.
I agree, but not so much. And if I'm looking for, if at some point I want a partner, if I'm going to date with the intention of kind of moving things along, and if I have enough options, I'd like to keep those options high caliber enough that you can add some value to my life.
Yeah.
That you have some insight or wisdom, or your female intuition is going to somehow kind of see some unrealized potential in me, or to be able to kind of collaborate and kind of. I think a good woman is somebody that if you can give them something and they multiply it. Just so a younger girl who maybe doesn't have her shit all together yet, or like I said, just swinging down. Like, I feel like maybe I'm doing you more of a favor than anything. And
yeah,
I don't mean to sound like rude or something, but
no, I hear you. You're the prize. That's kind of
that's been the challenge, because like I said, I've had no problem kind of getting what I would see as like 7s or 8s engaged in chasing me and reaching out. I got a couple right now that are like kind of begging. I canceled on one because I like double booked dates last week, and I ended up letting one of them go because I'd rather see the other one. And she's hitting me up. When are we going to get together? And now I'm kind of over it. Like, I've looked at Facebook. I'm like, to see how you're engaging. You're not really engage. Like, she's engaging, but it's not engaging me. It's just boring. You know what I mean? So it's like that's been fine, but it's that once you get like the 8, 9, 10. These gals that like are physically really pretty, they have some, chops, you know what I mean? Maybe some experience, so they understand adulthood, you know what I mean? They're not looking for somebody to come save them.
Mm-hmm.
They're tough to get out because they.
Are you treating these 9s and 10s the same way that you treat the 7s and 8s? Because I think that's key too.
Well, I think I would say so. I think so, because I keep it pretty straight across the board with the banter, and I don't flirt or compliment or over pursue or double text or keep my bubbles longer than theirs, and you know what I mean. None of that, but and if they're not pitching and catching with me, I'll let it go and then maybe wait another week and take another stab at it. But yeah, it's they got their careers they're focused on, or their kids, or whatever X is in the background. It's and they've come across enough people's dusty ass sons that they're kind of it's that the narrative now, like, men are trash kind of thing. And you don't need no man. And
I don't need no man.
You're a queen. You're a boss bitch. You don't need him. He better fucking jump through hoops, and you're the prize, and he's got to, if he really likes you, he would, and so these girls are like, oh, well, you didn't text me. Oh, you're not jumping through hoops like all of these other guys are. And it's like, yeah, well, but you're not going out with them either. You know what I mean? Because because they're not doing it for you. You know what I mean?
Because they're too needy. Yeah, they're too needy. It's
so that's the frustration, is because like I feel like once you can see through the matrix or what once you see the writing on the wall, like you get it, but you can't be like, listen, this is what's going on with you. Like, let me.
Yeah, you
let me
can't red pill
tell you
chicks. It
what's
doesn't
happening.
work. Yeah,
No.
going back to the sevens and eights though that have high interest. Like I am a firm believer in a 7 or an 8 with extremely high interest is way better than a 9 or a 10 with mediocre interest any day. Like they'll treat you so fucking good, It's another experience altogether. We'll get into that here in a little bit. I want to show this. So in the Brotherhood, I tried tagging you, and I don't know if you saw that, but I put out
The poll.
I put out a poll right before this, right, asking what other guys' experiences are, right, and it wasn't like a judgment, like, hey man, you suck at game. It was just like, hey, what's your experience been? So yeah, we only got 15 votes out of the 82 members that we have. There's some guys in there. They just are lurkers, I swear to God. But they could at least click the fucking button. So we have 13% that said about 80% flake rate. We have 41% that say 50%, and then a majority said 25% or less.
Yeah, and when I'm looking at that, I'm gonna presume, just by the nature of the group, and you said there's some lurkers there.
Yeah,
some of these guys are probably trying to
flex their numbers up a little bit.
Yeah,
it's okay. So that being said, I asked the same question on Twitter, and I think this is probably more accurate. All right, so we have 73 votes, and so far the majority say 50% flake rate.
And so that's a good rule of thumb. That's kind of, if I were to take my full experience over the last 4 years, 50% seems pretty fucking accurate, which that's a coin toss.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a good message to get out, though, because we can only be responsible for ourselves and how we approach things as a cautionary kind of coin toss. Anytime you set a date with a gal, like, it's a fucking coin toss. Like, even if you've played all your cards right and you've done everything, you don't know what's going on in the background. You don't know, if another better option came up, or if their grandmother died for the 20th time. You don't know, and that's just part of it. The same way that when they talk about cold approach, rejection, you have to get comfortable, or at least accept the notion that that's part of it. And I'm not gonna lie, like I've been at that point where I was like, fuck this, like I'm tired of of wasting my time on time wasters. Like, I don't need this. I can get by just fine. I can, maybe take a step back, but at the end of the day, I keep pushing forward, and there's improvement, there's change, you know what I mean? But like, it's really easy to give up, but it really is a fucking numbers game. You really got to keep pushing until you get to that moment where it starts to gain some momentum. There is a point, and it's might as well be like a life philosophy, like right after, it's always darkest before the dawn, or like push through that pain where you want to give up, and on the other side of that, there's a snowball effect that happens where, we were having this conversation, this was a few weeks ago, where I sent you those screenshots, and now, like, I don't know, I've got a few gals that are like hitting me up, when am I going to see you again? Let's get together. And I'm like, shoot, I got this, I don't have space for it all. They're kind of pursuing, and then I'm also getting new numbers and stuff, and
there's natural ebbs and flows when it comes to dating. There's cycles for sure. So you're talking about being frustrated and stuff like that. And so I went and grabbed my book from Dr. Glover, right? I love this book, dude. Have you read this one?
I've read it like 3 or 4 times. I got the Audible version. So
the FAQs one?
Oh no, not the.
It's his third book. It's his third book.
Okay, no.
So FAQs is fucking great because it's literally just like every question that he's ever gotten over the years that he was
That's great.
teaching his program. And then it's just his replies back to students, right? So it's their questions, his replies. And it's like some of these are from like 10 years ago, you know? And it's
Okay.
like these guys 10 years ago are going through the same shit, you
Yeah.
know? And
Okay.
that's what I love about it. So this guy writes in and he says, as I have several women in play at a time, I prioritize who I like and why and think about what that means to me. My question is this: how should I manage the numbers? Sometimes when I look at the number of women I've met without finding a really great woman, I'm a little disappointed. I know that I want a wife and a family, and I'd rather have that sooner rather than later. I know that I can't rush the beat. Is there any trick or tip on numbers? Is it healthy to pay attention to them? And so Dr. Glover says, yes, it's a numbers game. While there are a lot of great women out there, there are only a few who could be a great match for you and you for her. The odds of you meeting are pretty small. That is why you have to be testing all the time, everywhere you go. I also got discouraged at times with dating too. This is what I like about Dr. Glover is because he's been through the same shit and
Yeah.
he's honest with
Himself
it.
as above it.
Yeah. So he's like, I also got discouraged at times with dating. A lot of single women are really flaky. The ones who look like they would be great are often the ones who bail the quickest, create the most drama, or cannot get all the way in. This can be discouraging. When I was dating a lot, I tended to cycle on and off with my dating. I always made my work, my personal life, and my guy friends my top priorities no matter what. Ironically, I met most of my significant girlfriends when I was not looking for a woman or actively dating. No matter what, your attachment to outcome is going to cause you to suffer. Your desire to find a great woman, get married, and have a family sooner rather than later creates an agenda that you will try to plug women into. And I promise you, this will always bite you in the ass. So yeah, I think that's a big thing too, is a lot of guys have that attachment to outcome. They want a wife, they want a girlfriend, right? And you got a cat there? Is that? Fuck, I got my dog over here. She's all sneezing. I have to keep hitting mute.
I'm not paying attention to her, so you know how that goes.
Classic. Yes. So
I've learned more about women from this cat.
oh, yeah. My female cat's the same way. She'll come up and like I'll be in the middle of something and she'll come up and want to cuddle on me. And I'm like, all right, you're right. Let me put my phone down. Let me pay attention to you for a little bit, you know?
So
and then my girlfriend does the same thing. She climbs on my lap and I'm like, all right, fine. You know,
all right, fine. Let's give you a little, let's get you purring a little bit.
Yeah. So Dr. Glover, I mean, he really, you know, sort of hits the nail on the head there where he talks about, you know, these guys, they have this, I want a girlfriend now. I want a girlfriend now. And it's because they have that attachment to outcome that they try to plug every potential date into that role. And it's like, you got to let that go.
I recognize
and let it sort of flow and happen naturally.
Yeah.
What's that?
Relate. I can certainly relate because again, when I was recently single and I was working with Benny and the coaching program and working towards abundance, like I wasn't quite sure exactly what I wanted. And I think, you know, in hindsight, looking back, like I probably just wanted to get my notch count up. I think I just wanted, whether it would be for that validation or that ego boost, or just to kind of figure it out and be in the trenches and really get out there and see what's out there and what I am bringing to the table and how, and kind of working out the kinks, no pun intended. That that's where a lot of the success came from, because it was just hang out, have fun, hook up, rinse, recycle, repeat. I you know, anytime things got close to looking like they might go to a relationship, I kind of,
you'd bail.
And then, you know, I got in a couple short-term things. I got into a short thing with a girl that, you know, I checked all the boxes on paper, but I felt like something was missing physically. I wasn't all in. And then my ex came knocking around and we kind of gave a go there, and I learned another hard lesson. And kind of after that, I was like, okay, I'm done. Like I do not want, you know, to go down that road. And I went overseas for like a month, and I met a gal out there and did kind of this like open long distance thing where I was still taking dates here, but we were talking. I actually kind of let my guard down with her a little bit. I was speaking with my buddy Lewis, Lewis, and I think he recognized that I was never going to find a relationship if I wasn't open to being open with somebody, right? If I was keeping everything kind of surface, that I was never going to feel connected to somebody because I'm just kind of playing the game. And so, by chance, I connected with this girl. She was really great. We vibed well, and I got a taste of kind of that companionship that, somebody really genuinely caring and loving me, and for the first time in years, like really feeling those feelings again that I thought maybe I was just, jaded or broken in some way, that like I wasn't capable of experiencing that kind of like, oh man, I really like this girl kind of thing. And then that didn't pan out, more so logistically than anything. It was long distance. And then she had her own issues, and I was going through a lot of transition with the move and stuff. It was just too much, and I cut it. And we're still friends. We still chat here and there. Like, she'll pop in every couple months or so, and it's all good vibes. But out on the other side of that, having gotten a taste for that companionship and that connection, and like, oh man, like that felt nice to feel genuine feelings and not just feel like I'm a fuckboy or something. And that, like, oh man, like I think when I started dating again, I was dating with more of a focus on, let me find a partner. And I think that I was sub-communicating kind of a relationship focus, and
yeah, if you're somehow putting out that vibe, and that's one of the big things that I found I struggled with before I found this stuff, right? Because I found it was really easy to get dates. It was really easy to hook up, but I couldn't keep chicks around longer than 3 or 4 dates. And when I look back in hindsight, it was because I was the one like pushing for a relationship, being like, okay, where are we? What are we doing? Like, are we a thing? Are we a couple?
Continually like pump the brakes on that anytime. And kind of in a teasing way, like, okay, play your cards right. Maybe we'll get there. But right now, this is dinner. This isn't the chapel. So let's treat it like dinner and not chapel, kind of thing. Like,
yeah.
Yeah. So, and it's also allowed me to kind of reflect on like from my past experiences, like which qualities I would be looking for somebody that I might consider a relationship with, as far as and what my values are. Like, apparently, as it turns out, like punctuality and integrity, and having your shit together and being able to keep a date. Those that's important to me. Somebody that is respectful and a giver, and somebody that shows up. You know what I mean? Somebody that is considerate and not just looking at dating as far as what can they get out of it, or looking for somebody that they can take from, or that's going to make their lot better, but somebody that genuinely sees going into relationships from a place of mutual giving.
Yeah.
So that's also helped me kind of, it's like, instead of getting as frustrated with flakes or somebody that is displaying flaky behavior, it's just a turnoff, which is a healthier adaptation of that. It's cool, good, get out of the way. You're taking up space for somebody that might be better, rather than getting hung up, which is the same trope of guys that before they learn this stuff, chasing, you know what I mean? And when somebody pulls their attention away, or is this what they kind of chase and follow it. Whereas now, if somebody a woman gets kind of an attitude, or gets pointing their finger at me, and, you better apologize. Like, instead of feeling like I need to really grovel and, oh, I'm so sorry, you're right, oh, I'm wrong, you're beautiful, I love you, all that. Like, it's like, no, that behavior is really unattractive. And so I'm not pulling back because it's a game and I'm trying to manipulate you. It's because that repelled me in a way. And it's interesting to see how, when you're not doing it manipulatively, when it's coming organically because you value yourself and you recognize like what you're looking for, that it tends to work out in your favor.
Yeah. When you're being more authentic with it.
Yeah, that's a huge thing. I think women are insanely intuitive to authenticity.
Yeah.
You know, whether you think you're the best actor in the world, like, and you got a tight game or whatever, if it's coming from a funny place, there's going to be like little.
They're always testing too, especially in the beginning. They're testing for your congruence. You know, there's a lot of that stuff, and I think a lot of the stuff too, where women, if they're pushing early or they're at least bringing up relationship early, that's a shit test too. A lot of times too, they want to see how needy you are, right? Or they also want to see if you have other options, because you know, women are actually more attracted to guys that have options and stuff. And it's like, are you seeing anybody right now? And you're like, oh no. Like, you might as well just say, I'd never get pussy. You know, like
no, I've noticed that. You know, it's super counterintuitive, because I would have thought that, you know, like if a woman were to find out you're dating other people, or that or is assuming that you're talking to other women, that she would immediately be like, oh, fuck you, you know, like, but it's quite the opposite. The most high interest girls that I've gone out with have kind of openly said like, oh, I know you've got options, or you're probably, you know, you don't have a problem doing, you know, getting your, it's like, but when can I see you?
Yep.
There's something about it that they're like, they're in competition with each other, not with me.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, for sure.
It's all, I've found all of this stuff is just completely counterintuitive.
Yeah,
you
totally.
have to really just like start by doing the opposite of what you would normally do, and you'll probably have success.
Going back to flakes, I wanted to read what Dr. Glover says about flakes, at least one of the paragraphs, because he's got a whole chapter 36, flakes. So one of the things he says is, because some guy complains about it, and he goes, you are discovering the reality of dating. There is a reason most single women are single. When I was seriously dating, I would regularly get frustrated with the flakiness of the women I was meeting. It seemed like many of the women I met either wanted to fuse very quickly, or they would be there one moment and then disappear. It is the nature of the beast. Try not to let it bother you. Take a break if you get too frustrated, then come back to it. Set the tone and lead. If they follow, move on at the first sign of flakiness. So yeah, it's pretty much, he says this also too. It's pretty funny. I'm not going to read the whole thing, just this one sentence, but he says, in general, women are wired to want to connect and feel the flow of love, but their evolutionary skills for doing so suck. Oh man. Yeah. Last thing I wanted to bring up here, and then I think we can wrap up. So going back to what I was saying about, you know, a 7 or an 8 with high interest is better than a 9 or a 10 with like mediocre interest. And one of the things he has a whole chapter on attractive women. And I'll just read the first paragraph here, but he says, if you need heart bypass surgery, would you evaluate your doctor purely on his or her attractiveness? Or would you evaluate his or her reputation and experience for saving lives? If you were looking for a business partner to help you take your business to the next level, would you go looking for the most attractive candidate you could find? And damn their business experience. If you need a mechanic to work on your car, would you refuse to settle for anyone other than the best looking person available, even if they knew nothing about working on cars? You know, his whole point is,
I remember that from the book. Yeah.
Yeah, and also like the interview I had with him too. He brought it up there too, but he's like, do you go for the mechanic with the best ass, or do you go with the mechanic with like the most experience in fixing cars? Because when it comes to like long-term committed relationships, you want a girl that's not just hot. You want a girl that is really into you, you know. And so that's almost like a more of a thing that you're testing for, because you know, like hot chicks are a dime a dozen, but a chick that really treats you well and puts like
Well,
investment
yeah,
in and
and
stuff like that is hard to find.
oftentimes the super attractive ones are the ones that have been super attractive their whole adult life,
Yeah.
uh, haven't had to develop a personality or conversation skills because people are always talking to them and approaching them and giving attention without them having to develop those skills or needing to. And this is obviously like a broad sweeping generalization, but
It's pretty accurate.
it makes sense that if you grow up your whole life and everybody's always, you're getting attention, you're getting kind of pretty privilege, you've no shortage of male suitors or people kind of willing to jump through hoops, and that's the norm for you, that's what you're used to. That like, and even the asshole Chad, like you could get that guy too, you know what I mean? But there's there's
a huge ego
well,
that's developed with that.
yeah. So you're going to look at guys as infinitely replaceable, as an infinite, never-ending supply that is dehumanizing. So they don't respect you or your time because they don't have to, because there's another bus every 15 minutes type shit. So that's just the reality of it. I think though that there is, on the other side of that, there's an awakening happening, like on TikTok, on social media, where people are kind of starting to wake up to the pitfalls of maybe what they've been told or raised on. And there are women that have gone through life and had enough failed relationships or trauma or whatever, and they've healed, or they're doing the work and come to learn some of this stuff and do improve. And so now you've got a few out there that are good women that have developed that, because they're still good people out there, you know what I mean?
Yeah, my favorite are the 9s or 10s that used to be 6s and 7s.
Well, so this interesting,
because they're humbled,
yeah, like somebody might have lost some weight, or it was like an ugly duckling, and then they kind of had to glow up. In my case, like like my ex-wife grew up in Ukraine, and Eastern, at least in my opinion, Eastern and Central European women are beautiful. Like across, like there's a surplus. They're like beautiful, good-looking women. So
that's why a lot of the pickup artists like to go to like
you take one of them out there, like it's like calling somebody like an LA5. You know what I mean? It's like you're an LA5 or an LA6, but then you move to fucking Nebraska. You don't have this complex of going your whole life standing out and being treated differently or special, because everybody looks good. So you don't develop this bitchy attitude or whatever, this kind of cynicism. So, I mean, that's kind of where you get like your passport bros and stuff, but I noticed with, like I said, like my ex-wife, she's a very good looking girl. And I thought she was just like drop dead gorgeous. And I remember going out to Ukraine, and then looking around, was like, oh my God, they just like come off the line like that. This is like, that's a stock. You know what I mean? Like, that's why she actually had a personality and could hang, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was interesting to see after the divorce and stuff, and kind of getting westernized, like how that can change though. Cause then you do start, everywhere we go is, oh my God, you're so beautiful. She get fed all of this stuff to the point where like, she's like, I know I'm hot. It's like, there it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know I can find a guy anytime, any day of the week if I needed. Why would I learn to change my tire? I can just, bat my eyelashes and get it done.
Yep.
And it was like, ooh, well, there you go. You said it right there. So I think you're on to something. Maybe I'm still looking for a unicorn, but at the end of the day,
yeah,
I'm not in a rush to settle into a relationship.
That's a good place to be. Like if you can just if you just get to a place where it's just like, I don't care, if it happens, it happens. Cool. If not, I'm splitting plates. I'm having a good time.
I got too much to lose to make a bad investment. I got a great relationship with my daughter. I got this new house I love. I got plenty of room to grow into that. If and when somebody comes in here on a more permanent fashion, that's going to be because they're adding some value to that, and otherwise, like I can take care of. I'm a strong, independent man, Paul.
Are you? Yeah.
For myself, I don't.
You're a sassy bish, man. All right. Well, we've gone over an hour here, man. It's been great catching up. Where, besides the 3% Brotherhood, where can people find you online?
Ryan Kaufman _tattoo. I work at Damascus Tattoo Company in Maryland. So my whole portfolio is on Instagram, Ryan Kaufman _tattoo. No pictures of my face, but I've got some pretty good work up there that I'm proud of. So if anybody wants to take a look, I'd be happy to share.
Yeah. I the last time you were on, I showed a picture of like the one you did with the camera. You did he has a lot of like hyper realistic tattoos.
I play around with a bunch of different styles. My website has some of it too, RyanKaufmanTattoo.com. Yeah, check it out.
Cool. All right, I'll plug that below. Ryan, thanks again for joining me, man. You're
absolutely always a pleasure talking to you.
All right, man. Talk to you later.
All right, take care.
Ryan, thanks for joining me, man. You're welcome back at any time. This is the second time you've been on the podcast. Always a fun conversation. Man, don't be a stranger. Don't be a stranger, man. Don't be a stranger. Man, those women, right? They're so flaky. But you just got to persevere. You just got to push through that and find other things to do, right? You could spin plates. That's important. That's the best defense against flaky women, is having other women. But until you get to that point, then stacking activities, right? Having a routine, doing things that you do normally throughout the week. That is how you get your mind off that thing, right? Like, oh, you have a date lined up on Tuesday. Well, she canceled. Well, that's okay because Tuesday's bowling night. Who gives a crap, right? You got to have that kind of mentality to get through this stuff, to get through the hard parts of dating. You know what I mean? All right, I think you guys get the picture. That's all I got this time. Be sure to like, fave, subscribe, hit those notifications, sound off in the comments if you haven't done so already. Follow me on social media. You know the drill. I don't have my normal doodads here, so I'm just going to talk about that. Get on the beer club. It's only $10 a month. I think that's all we'll do this week. And otherwise, stay tuned for the beer club credits, and we will see you guys on Wednesday for the live stream.
This has been the Come On Man podcast. New full episodes served hot every Monday morning on your favorite podcast platform of choice. So subscribe now. Follow Paul on social media. The links are in the description. Now, go out and get it.